One guy's seen it, the other guy hasn't. First guy's gonna tell the second guy all about it while they both get drunk. All right, welcome to yet another episode of One Guy's Seen It, the only podcast where one guy has seen the movie, the other guy has not seen the movie, and the first guy is going to try to convince the second guy to see the movie, and if he succeeds, they'll take a break, watch the movie, come back, nerd out about the movie, and decide how many beers you need to enjoy the movie, all while getting progressively more inebriated, because that is what they choose to do with their sentience. But without any further ado, rigmarole, hoopla, or ballyhoo, let's get into it. Sumner, give me the skinny.
I'm drunk right now.
That is an adequate skinny.
Yeah, it's adequate. Perfectly adequate opening. But yeah.
See, that's the advantage you have, is that it's later, right? So the odds are that, like, when we start this podcast and you're in Japan, odds are you've been doing something with your night and have already got a head start on me, which is not fair.
Well, I try not to, because by the end of it, will be so shit-faced and get such a bad hangover the next day. So I never usually drink or pregame beforehand, but yeah, we're out with some people tonight, so I had a couple drinks before doing this.
Nice.
So try not to.
Wait. On a totally unrelated note, you went skiing for the first time.
I did, yeah. I forgot about that, yeah.
And I need to know every detail because the pictures and videos warmed my heart.
It was awful. It was so terrible.
You hated every minute of it?
No, I didn't hate every minute of it, but, I mean, I'm not good at ice skating, not good at rollerblading or, roller skating or whatever, so I was at a disadvantage going in. I feel like just being able to maintain balance is kind of tricky. So, I mean, all the bunny hills were closed because it was like the first of the year. And we practiced on this little hill for like 20 minutes. And then we went up on like the next level up of a bunny slope. So you go up the chair, and then the hill is so steep going down. It if you're not used to skiing, or you don't even know how to pizza and french fry correctly, you'll fuck yourself up very easily. And I had a rough time getting down. It probably took me about an hour and a half to get down the hill.
Okay, so that's on par. But my question is, was it a green slope or was it a blue? Do you remember? Because usually the first slope after the bunnies usually like a green.
Yeah, it's I think it was. Well, the colors are also different here, so it's like green, red, and then black. So it's a little different, but
okay.
But there's also so it was like a green, and then it was like, I think it was like a blue square. So whatever between green and red would be, which I think would be like green and blue in the U.S. maybe.
Okay.
So
by the way, I'm assuming Andy put you through the bunny slope, and then she was like, "Yeah, you're ready."
Well, no, we were with a group of people, and two of the other guys had never done it before. So I was in company with people that didn't know what they were doing. But we went up the chairlift, and I fell out of the chairlift, but I was out of the way of people, so they didn't have to stop it, which was good, I guess. But
yeah, wait, explain that. So okay, because you've heard my story of near death. Yeah. So your first time hopping off the lift went well?
Yeah, so I mean, like, when you go up the chairlift, like Andy warned me, like, if you go up and you eat shit right out of the gate and you're like in the way of people, they have to stop the chairlift so people don't run into you as they're coming out of the chairlift thing.
Yeah.
So I was able to get far enough away that they didn't have to stop it, but I was like on my I was like on my knees, like trying to get out of the gate.
Hey, I know. Round of applause. Like, that's
thanks.
That is the most important thing.
Honestly, I think the worst part about skiing is not the falling. It's trying to get back up when you're on the hill is the worst thing ever. Like when you eat shit,
and it's bad it's bad even when your legs aren't 12 feet long like yours.
Oh yeah, it was rough. There were a couple times I even told Andy, I'm like, I can't do this. This is so difficult. After the fifth time of falling, I was like, I like reverted back to a childhood state. Like I was on the verge of tears. I was like, this sucks so bad.
Oh no.
But it was like that completely emotional, like not thinking rationally response. You're like, I don't know how I'm gonna get down this hill. Like I'm literally 20 feet away from the chairlift, and I have to go down like hundreds of more yards to get down the hill.
God, I wish I could. I wish I could have been there. Like I can't go back. Because I started skiing when I was a kid, but like I remember that fear of like seeing people haul ass past you and making it look so easy, and you're just like, I'm gonna stay here forever. Like there's no, I can't. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think we were even going down this hill. So like the last part of the hill was so steep. I literally ate shit probably 20 times going down, and I was so frustrated I just took my skis off and walked down the rest of the hill. Like I couldn't do it.
See, and that sucks too, because that can take all the joy out of it to the point where like you never want to do it again. I mean, how are you feeling?
I was okay. I mean, like, so I went back to the lodge and I had a couple beers, and I was like, I'm being a baby. This is, I can do this. It's not a big deal. Because Andy had to go back up to the top of the hill, so it was like the way the chairlift worked, it would like take you up to the first part, and then if you go up to the second chairlift, it would take you like closer to the top of the hill. And one of our friends who had never skied before went up there with all our other friends, just because, we didn't know how bad it was going to be. And he was basically stuck at the top, so she had to go help him get down. So I had some time in the lodge to myself to figure out my life a little bit. And I was like, you know what, I can do it. I went back out and I went to the top, very tippy top of the hill, and, just ate shit a bunch of times and fucked up my ass and my shins. But it was, I would go back again when the bunny slopes are open for sure.
Yeah, would eat ass again. I'm glad
would eat
that
ass
is
again.
That is, man. I wish you would have. I wish Andy would have stuck with you literally the entire time and filmed every moment of your frustrating experience.
Oh, she was super, super nice, because she filmed me a bunch, but she didn't film all my falls, which was a majority of them. So she just filmed the good stuff and sent it to you guys.
Well, I'm so glad you've popped your skiing cherry. You got to go back and do it again. It'll be better the next time.
Yeah, and I think so. It's just that balance. But I think once you figure out how to stand up, once you've fallen, like it's a little easier. Because by the end of it, I think I was getting it. And I was a little buzzed, and I was like a little happier. And I wasn't such a shit to Andy while she was trying to teach me stuff. So it got a little better.
That's cool, man. Well, Merry winter Christmas time. Happy times to you guys.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that like 10-year-old kids are just flying by you the whole time.
It's not fair though. They're cheating. Their center of gravity, their body mass. It's not even fair. Look, I told you the first time Wes and I went. He went through the exact same fucking thing. It's just because you guys are so tall. Like you fall. There's no way to get up.
Yeah, it's rough, and especially when you don't know how to like plant your skis when it's on a slope like that. It's scary. For a moment, you're like, I'm just gonna die here. This is where it ends.
Well, yeah, and it's like too, when you fall, you're falling a very long way. Like when I fall, I'm falling a few feet. Like like when you're like, if you start when you're a kid and you're learning as a kid, like when you fall, it does nothing to you. You have no mass.
Yeah, you're built out of elastic.
Yeah, learning as an adult is the fucking worst.
Yeah, and I was like, didn't get a lot of sleep, probably a little hungover. So not the ideal skiing situation.
Well, regardless, I'm super proud of you. We have to go together.
Yeah, no, I really want to go with you. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think it'd only
honestly
take,
though, you brought up a valid point. The most fun part of skiing is getting drunk in the lodge and spending way too much money on beer.
Yeah, I got two tall boys. I was chilling with some neighbors of ours who were just happened to be there also, and I was like, yeah, eat shit. He's like, it happens to the best of us. So I was like, I was feeling okay by the time I left there.
Yeah, which reminds me, there's a really good documentary on Netflix you need to watch if you never want to go skiing ever again.
Oh, shit. Okay.
About this crazy fucking avalanche that happened in like 1986 in, I believe, Lake It's like one of the most popular skiing destinations in the U.S. I can't even remember if it was like, I think it's in California, Lake, fucking Utah, something. It's a place you would know, but like a very famous skiing destination. But apparently, like, there's this particular ski resort where it's more likely that there will be avalanches there than any other sort of mountain peak situation anywhere else in the U.S.
Oh, shit.
And
okay.
At the time, because there I don't even know how to describe this. I wish I knew what I was talking about. But there are like teams of people who work at ski resorts where avalanches are a real risk, and they're like avalanche threat mitigators. Like and especially back then, they did all kinds of crazy shit like every morning, and they might still do this. I don't know anything about it, but they would like blow up the peaks. Like they would use literal dynamite to blow all the snow, like after each night, to blow all the snow to prevent avalanches. And at the time, it was kind of like a new science, and but this particular crew was really good at it, and they did everything that they were supposed to do this one particular morning or one particular day, and thought that they had cleared it all, and this crazy horrible avalanche happens that like covers the entire ski lodge and ends up killing like 8 people, and it was just nutty. But like this one chick survives. Like she's stuck under the snow, like under the crushed building, and she's under there for like 4 days and survives. And anyway, really interesting documentary. Watch it if you want an excuse to never go skiing again.
Yeah, that's insane.
But anyway, moving on. This is One Guy's Seen It. We're here to watch a movie. What do you got for me today?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't want to give too much away about it, because it is a newer movie. But I feel like you'll get it pretty quickly, because I think I've talked about this one in the past.
Okay.
But we'll see. You ready for
all right, we'll be back.
An
this
info
is One
dump?
Guy's. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Give me the info. I'm ready. Come on, man. Get your shit together.
All right. Hey. I took notes. I did my homework.
Hey.
Okay, so this one came out in 2022. It was nominated for 9 Academy Awards. It was directed by the guy. This might be giving it too much, but directed in Bruges. Do you know what it is?
Is it Forrest Gump?
Yeah, Forrest Gump. Yeah, you got it.
Yes. No, I don't know what it is. Don't make me feel dumb. Just tell me stuff.
Well, it stars Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson.
Wait, is this the sequel to In Bruges?
Yeah, well, like a spiritual sequel, not like literally.
Oh, okay. Wait, I forgot the name of it. Damn it. We were just talking about this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, we're not going to continue until you remember the name.
God fucking damn. Give me a hint.
It's it takes place on a small Irish island, and then the plot summary is 2 lifelong friends find themselves at an impasse when one abruptly ends their relationship with alarming consequences for both of them, is the IMDb plot synopsis.
Okay, I'm getting close.
It's a tough one to remember. Do you want me to just tell you?
Something tells me it's the Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah, that's it.
It's not the fact that I just Googled it.
No, you son. You lying snake.
But I'm stoked. So spiritual successor, but not.
Yeah.
Not a drug. Because I don't even remember how In Bruges ended. Like, give me a quick recap of the plot of that movie.
Well, there are 2 hitmen on the run because Colin Farrell's character accidentally botches his first job as a hitman when he's assigned to kill a priest. When shooting the priest, he accidentally one of the bullets strays from the guy and hits a kid in the head, and they're on the run because they accidentally killed a kid. So Ralph Fiennes' character comes and finds them because Brendan Gleeson puts Colin Farrell's character on a train, and they end up having this big shootout because Colin Farrell has to come back because he punched. It's a whole tangled plot, but basically he ends up back in Bruges unintentionally, and they have this big shootout, and Brendan Gleeson's character falls to his death trying to warn Colin Farrell, and then Ralph Fiennes' character hits him in the stomach, and you don't know if he's alive or dead at the end of the movie. So, but Brendan Gleeson's character is definitely dead at the end of the movie for sure.
Yeah, I remember that.
When he falls off of the bell tower or whatever.
Yeah, dude. That movie was fucking nuts. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies that's come out in the last, since the 2020s. I think this is probably at the top of the list for me personally, just because I like the director so much, Martin McDonagh, and the way he writes dialogue and his plots. You never know where they're going. And he's only made a couple of movies. He's only made In Bruges, Seven Psychopaths, which is a movie not a ton of people have seen. They're familiar with his work, but it's really
I think I've
like a funny
seen
movie.
Seven Psychopaths, and I remember it being fucking awesome. I might have watched it with you.
Yeah, maybe. It's Christopher Walken's in it, and Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, that movie was badass.
Yeah, Woody Harrelson's in it, and his dog gets kidnapped.
Yeah, dude, I remember that. I remember that movie.
And then he did 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri with Frances McDormand.
Sweet.
So he's and this is his 4th traditional feature film. He's mainly a playwright, but he's only made 4 movies. So whenever he comes out with something, it's always pretty high quality.
And it sounds like he hasn't missed yet.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I wrote down here, Farrell and Gleeson agreed to do the movie immediately just for the chance to work with McDonagh and each other again, because they loved working with each other so much on In Bruges.
Ah, that's cool as fuck.
And I didn't know this, but Brendan Gleeson is a very skilled fiddle player, which you'll see in the movie a little bit.
That's pretty on brand. I feel like I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, I think there are a couple movies where he's played fiddle before. I want to say Cold Mountain, and then something recently where he had played fiddle. But he's actually a really good musician, from what I've read.
I just when I look at him, I imagine that he probably plays the fiddle. Speaking of Cold Mountain, I've never seen it, and I think it's Chris's favorite movie, and he's been trying to get me to watch it because it's like it's a Nicole Kidman, right? Like Civil War movie.
Yeah, Renee Zellweger and Jude Law early on, like early 2000s. It's a weird movie, but it's pretty good. And Jack White's in it for a minute.
Oh, that's probably why Chris likes it so much. I mean, he's a sucker for like rom-droms anyway.
It's because it's Civil War, I think.
Yeah.
Civil War time frame. But it's a crazy movie if you've never seen it.
Yeah, I need to. But today we are watching The Ghosts of Tsushima, or whatever this movie is called.
The Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited. So, I guess, do you want to save trivia, like more trivia for afterwards, or you want to keep hitting me with stuff?
I only have one more piece of trivia. There's not a ton of stuff that would be relevant if you haven't seen the movie. So this is my last little piece of stuff. So it takes place in the early 1920s on this little Irish island, and I don't think this gives anything away, but there's Irish Civil War is like the backdrop, and they're on this little island while it's going on in the mainland, so they can kind of see it from where they are. But the composer Carter Burwell, who's done a lot of Coen Brothers stuff.
I know of Carter.
And he did the Raising Arizona music, like the really famous like yodeling thing in that, and was gonna do this like traditional Irish music, but the director told him not to do it. Told him to stay away from any Irish traditional stuff, which is an interesting choice because it's very Irish, but he told him to avoid any traditional Irish stuff, which is interesting
choice.
I don't know if it's to keep it universal or I don't know.
We'll see how I feel about that. You know, I might have some very strong opinions about the lack of traditional Irish music in this movie.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the opening song is one of my favorite like bits of opening music. It's so well, we'll talk about it when we come back. But
shit, I'm hyped. Let's do this. We're gonna go watch this movie. You convinced me, by the way. I know there's always a chance that.
Oh yeah, what are you drinking? I
could just say no. Wait, what'd you ask? I'm sorry.
Oh, what are you drinking, by the way? Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, yeah, this is classy. Nothing like a cold bottle of Miller High Life in the morning.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, I'm drinking a Sapporo. I'm right there with you in the shitty beer era.
It's sort of becoming a holiday tradition because I'm always so broke around Christmas from buying Christmas presents that I can afford is Miller High Life.
It's a champagne of beers. I mean,
it is the champagne of beers. I don't know how you say no to that. Well, what about you? You said Sapporo?
Sapporo, yeah.
Dude, I had that picture that I sent you. So we went to this really badass sushi place for like to celebrate Thanksgiving with Kaylee's family. They just wanted to do something a little different.
Oh, nice.
And they had Sapporo was the only beer that they had on the menu, and that I don't know if you could tell that can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they have these in Japan. I've never seen a beer can like this. Dude, it was made with like the thickest fucking aluminum I have ever seen. Like it almost felt like it was like 4-ply aluminum. Like you couldn't dent the can like if you tried.
Yeah. I've seen those here. Like the really industrial strength.
Yeah, like an industrial strength beer can, and the like snap top or whatever to open it. It took me like a minute to get it open because the aluminum to open the beer can was so thick. But then it just felt like, I don't know, it felt like a more premium beer as a result. So I was like, good on you, Sapporo. Like, I'm going to remember this beer because of this weird choice that you guys made.
It probably protects the beer in a better way, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure they have some kind of marketing excuse for it. Anyway, this is One Guy's Seen It. We will be back. Remember, when you hear that trumpet, spoilers are on the way. Hashtag respect the trumpet. We'll be back. Well, Sumner, I don't think I can do this podcast with you anymore. Because I just don't feckin' like you, so.
I don't like you no. You liked me yesterday.
Oh, I don't like you no more.
But I'll come around and see how you feel in the morning.
He has his pint there because it's there from when he ordered it before.
I'll go sit feckin' somewhere else.
Go sit feckin'. I found a stick on a hook, but what do you do with the stick and a hook? I suppose you hook things that are a stick length away.
I guess so, Dominic.
Dude, this is another one of those movies where I really, really had to stop myself from just literally writing down every line of dialogue that I heard. Like I got 10 minutes
tough.
and I was like, I'm never gonna finish the movie if I keep doing this.
Yeah, I had to pause sometimes at the beginning, and then I was like, you know what, it's gonna be too much, and I ended up writing 7 pages of notes. So
oh my god, 7
I broke my own
pages.
Well, I had a lot of thoughts because I've seen this 3 or 4 times now. So going in again,
okay. Look, first of all, can you please just once, just for once, we've been doing this podcast a long time. Just once, can you just show me one bad movie? Like,
just to spice things up a little bit.
Yeah, just throw me a feckin' bone. Why don't you?
Feckin' bone. But there's too many good ones out there. I have bad ones I can show you. I have had them on the back burner.
On the bad burner.
On the bad burner, yeah. But you know, I'm waiting for the inspiration to strike me on those.
Yeah, so somehow this little 2-hour movie where nothing really happens and everything happens manages...
Perfect description of the movie.
Yeah, it manages to cover the entirety... I don't even know how to put this. The entirety of the human condition in 2 hours, right? You've got friendship, you've got ambition, despair, loneliness, revenge, joy. Like, and it sounds stupid. I can just list off, whatever. But it's all of that, and nothing ever happens, but everything happens. It's Yeah, man.
Yeah,
How's
it's the depth of the characters.
How's your despair today, Sumner?
It's back a bit. Yeah, it's one of those ones. It's just it's nothing you'd expect it to be, and I think I read initially that Martin McDonagh had written the script in the style more like In Bruges, like I think the end of the original script was like a shootout or something along those lines, and he had read it and he showed it to a couple people, and then he shelved it because he hated it so much.
Wow.
And just never did anything with it. And then 10 years later, he had rewritten the ending, because I think the middle of the movie, like, you were supposed to see their relationship before the fallout happened.
Mm-hmm.
And in the new version he had written, that's where the movie starts instead.
Oh, wow.
Which is an interesting departure from where the original script was. So
yeah,
it's just a fascinating process insight into his work, I guess, because he probably had this really great script, but he didn't think it was good enough to make a movie out of, or he was just bored with that idea of, doing something like that. But anyway, yeah, it's something completely unto itself, and I love it.
Well, I mean, hey, aren't we all
I got
just
to show it to you?
Aren't we all just entertaining ourselves while we stave off the inevitable?
Yeah, I did have to write that quote down because that definitely says a lot about his character.
I don't think there's a way to talk about this movie without really calling it what it is, which is it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, I think so.
I laughed and I cried and I cared.
Yeah. And the end of the movie leaves you so cold and lonely and like full of despair and sadness, but it's also humorous at the same. Yeah, it's hard to explain the feeling, but it's definitely melancholy. I think it's the best way you can describe it.
Yeah, and there are, it's funny too, because there's certain things, there's certain like elements throughout the movie that, and I think a point that this is just how I kind of received it, right? But I think a huge point that he's trying to make with this movie is how we all get wrapped up and tied up in these insignificant things in our lives, these grudges and these, and I think it's so difficult, especially depending on your circumstances, like
right.
Sort of what, how you live your life and where you live and what's going on around you. Some things, what can be an all-encompassing issue to somebody. I'm getting it's turning into nonsense, but I'm just a little bit drunk. But the fact that the Irish Civil War is like you said, just a backdrop. It's only really, and every time you're reminded that it's going on, you've become so absorbed into these squabbles of this small island village that you're like, oh shit, yeah, none of this really does matter, and which is the point, right? But it does, because all we are is what our experience is, right? And man, great performances all around. It's funny, I've struggled with Colin Farrell in a few movies. He was great in this.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I think he's just, some of his later stuff, especially stuff with Martin McDonagh, he's just immaculate. I think he's perfect in this. He just does exactly what, and I don't even think, like, playing a character like that isn't obvious, like, to make him sympathetic, but dim-witted, and he's got all these elements to him that make him interesting, but he's supposed to be kind of like, the town fool, I guess. He's just the nice guy.
Yeah, he's a fucking moron.
Yeah, but he doesn't play him like a moron, which I think is important, because I think if he did, it would be like parody almost. But the fact that he plays him so sympathetically, because it's hard not to sympathize with him.
Yeah,
he's such a affable, nice, lovely guy. He just doesn't have a lot going up in his brain, and he doesn't really have a lot to live for. Also, which is like another tragic element to his character. I think he's got his sister and his donkey and his best friend, and that's pretty much it.
And that's all a man needs, you know. And he lost it all. He lost it all at the same time.
Yeah, when all that gets ripped away from you, like, you know, that existential dread, which is pretty much what the movie is about, is the dread of, you know, inevitable death, which is, you know,
yeah,
a pretty heavy subject, but the way it's dealt with is very colorful and humorous.
Yeah, and it's done in a way too. It's like when you think about inevitable death as the theme of a movie or as the theme of any story, you know, there are so many ways you can present that in so many different settings. And I think what was great about doing it in a setting like this, where I love movies where the environment or the location is just as much a character in the movie as all the characters. And this fucking beautiful island, I guess, really is. Did they really shoot on Inisherin? Is that where they were?
Well, I think Inisherin was a thing that they made up,
a fictional name of the island.
Yeah, but I mean, it is a real island off of the coast of Ireland. I can't remember what the actual name of the town is called. But,
yeah, I did no research.
No, I did vaguely after I watched it the first time, but they filmed on a real island, so where their filming is real, but they made up the name, I think, to give it, I don't know, maybe more of a fantasy element a bit, because there's definitely some fantastical elements of the movie a bit, especially with him, you know, the chopping of the fingers and, you know, how he doesn't die from blood loss and, you know, all that stuff, but it almost doesn't matter.
Right, it's not the point.
In a weird way. It's almost like a fable. Like, it feels that way a bit. Like a tall tale that somebody would tell around a campfire or something.
Yeah, and it also added to what sort of made it feel Shakespearean, almost like a play to me.
Yeah, definitely.
It added to that sort of feeling. I felt like I was watching a really good play.
Yeah, and that's what Martin McDonagh is known for, his plays, which I never read any of his play scripts, but apparently they're incredible. And he's written a lot more of those than he has movie scripts.
Man, that's crazy. I felt that. For the record, the actor that played Dominic stole the fucking movie.
Barry Keoghan, yeah, he's fantastic.
Dude,
one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Has he been in anything else? Like I hope he got something for this or nominated for something.
Oh, he did get nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Didn't win. I think he should have won. I can't even remember who beat him out, but I was like, him and the sister Carrie Condon, I think, should have won.
She was very good too.
I thought she was perfect. I
think she got beat out. So many fucking hilarious lines.
Yeah, she was just she was the perfect mix of, you know, harsh, intelligent, but she's also very sweet and lovely, and like, it's a perfect mix of all those things that make her such a well-rounded character. She's kind of like the balance between their two extremes.
Yeah.
You know, Colum's or Brendan Gleeson's, you know, like wanting to move on, and then Colin Farrell can't move on at all, can't cope with the fact that, you know, this is happening. And she's like I don't know, almost the voice of reason.
Yeah, character. It was, God, dude, it's like just the plot was so fascinating to me because like how it takes balls to write a story like this and to just lean into it. And as the viewer, when you realize that it's being leaned into, you think like, God, this is what's so great about I feel like great writers and great directors that can do more with less, right? It's like, I feel like as by nature of how easy it's gotten, I'm not going to say it's easy to make movies, but because I feel like because the technology's gotten so much better and special effects are so incredible, I feel like people get so bogged down by how technically impressive something should be. And as a result of that, it can affect storytelling. And it's movies like this that are just proof that all you need to completely enrapture a viewer is just it's a good fucking story. It's something about human nature. I mean, it's such a simple concept. Like, one friend just decides he doesn't like the friend anymore. I mean, it doesn't happen. It's such a simple thing, and I'm sorry, I'm just drunk. But
no, you're good.
as soon as I realized 5 minutes in that that's what this movie was going to be about, I got so excited because I was like, oh my God, like there's so much you can do with this. And you know what I mean? But it's such a simple, it almost felt like I was watching a classic like Of Mice and Men, or it felt like a modern classic. I'm curious how people responded to it. You said it won a bajillion awards.
It got nominated for a bunch of Oscars. Didn't win any of them. I think it got nominated for 9, and didn't win a single one, which I still think is
fucking bullshit.
A travesty. Yeah, I think that was the year of I want to say Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think.
Boo.
Yeah, which I mean I'm kind of tepid on, but I get why that swept the awards.
Okay, there's a perfect example of a movie that's doing everything just for the sake of doing it.
Right, the spectacle of
it all. And then here's a movie that's the complete opposite in its ethos and choices. And interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, two extremes, because I think you made a really good point that this is kind of stripping away everything other than the fundamentals of storytelling in a lot of ways. But the way it's able to stretch those elements into really making you think a lot, but not pushing an agenda or forcing you one way or the other. You're kind of split in all these different directions simultaneously, which is you're just caught up in the performances and the characters and the very subtle direction of everything. It just feels very natural.
Yeah, because when there's nothing else to distract you except you being in the room with a human being experiencing this very specific thing, you have no choice but to literally go through it with them. And there's nothing that you can hang your hat on. You just have to live it.
And that's the thing, too. I think that's a really interesting point, is that I think nowadays, and this is not always true, but I think by and large, bigger, like TV shows or movies, like feel like they have to push the envelope and make everything so exciting and entertaining. And that was my biggest problem with Everything Everywhere All at Once, is it felt like it was just like every 10 seconds it was just like doing something, just like, and I think it just doesn't compute. Like, I can't latch on to anything personally, but I can appreciate technical elements of that. But to be able to strip all that away and just focus on fundamentals and like, do you have something worthwhile? Like, that's a real challenge to do. Like, actually have something that's, physically there that you can relate to and empathize with. And like, I think from the first 5 minutes, it grips you from that opening portion of the music playing, which is so beautiful and angelic, and it just it sucks me in every time. And it's just a lovely choir, which originally I thought it was like a Gaelic choir. I thought it was like an Irish thing, but it's a Brazilian choir, which is just a random thing. But I think that the director probably just thought it was a beautiful piece of music. It didn't really matter where it came from, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that the language was not, it didn't seem native, but it worked.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar with Gaelic, but I was just assuming it was just because it's like an Irish setting.
But that's too on the nose. Can't do that.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, like, other than when they play in the pub and like are doing the fiddle and all that stuff, it's all supposed to be not Irish based at all, which is another interesting choice. I think to make it, maybe more mournful, and that opening angelic thing is like it's very uplifting, but then there are these weird deliberate key changes in it that make it very mournful and sad very quickly. So it sets the tone so perfectly in those opening moments. It's a beautiful piece of music that just sets the stage so well, and it's one of my favorite parts of the movie.
The music was great throughout. There was a lot of there was a lot of harp, I noticed. which is an
Yeah.
interesting choice because harp is very intimate and almost it's difficult to make a harp sound sad, even when it's being played even when the song is in a minor key or is mostly pentatonic. Like a harp just makes you feel breezy no matter what. And I noticed the usage of it was usually when people were walking down roads and things were breezy. And
it's supposed to have that angelic quality, but it has those dissonant chords that makes you feel very on edge and like, oh, this is weird, or should feel a certain way about this.
Speaking of ethereal quality, can we just talk about Mrs. McCormick's character arc for a second here?
Oh yeah.
Very
it's
quickly
like the town
goes.
sidekick.
Yeah, well, no, she very quickly goes from being like the mean old lady down the street who everyone avoids to the fucking Grim Reaper. Like, it was very. And it's funny too because I know obviously it was a choice, but it almost started when he started cutting his fingers off. It's like when the story started to become a little more fantastic and a little more like a fable, like you explained. There were all these like supernatural elements being slowly added, very subtly added, which I thought was really interesting. I mean, like I can't think of another movie I've seen sort of do that, like start you in this grounded reality and sort of become a little more. Fantastic as it goes along. Yeah, the only other movie I can think of that kind of did something like that off the top of my head, but that was nothing like this movie, was like Big Fish, right? That you don't think is going to start that way, and it just gets more and more ridiculous as it goes on.
It lulls you in very simply and like is a very simple premise, and then as things get more complicated and you lose touch with, where you started from, it becomes more and more plausible, I guess.
Yeah.
You kind of lose that sense of, you lose that grounded sense that you started with, which is a really interesting device, narratively speaking. You can just take you from, real world to somewhere you didn't expect to go, which is a beautiful thing when it happens, because I feel like it so rarely happens when you're watching a movie.
Yeah, it was brutal. Like,
yeah, it is. It's a brutal movie, and I think too. I think I wrote this down when that first scene happens when he basically breaks up with him at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
that's about the worst thing you can imagine. Somebody that you love, even like significant other or just friend, like that's a horrible feeling. Like you immediately sympathize with Colin Farrell's character. I feel like.
To be shunned, and it's so absurd that it's comical at first until it very quickly becomes not comical.
Yeah, and he quickly turns into and that's the thing too. It's there's so I mean like you said, Mrs. McCormick, like she I think ends up symbolizing death.
Right.
Very plainly. I don't think it's
no. They went full on Grim Reaper staff, black coat. Yeah, they leaned into it.
Yeah, and that's an interesting element to her. But there was a thing I noticed at the end where Colum's talking to the preacher about despair, and I think he says something like it's come back again. And I had a moment where I was like, is Paul Rick supposed to be his despair that he's trying to like a metaphor? And I don't know if I don't think it's supposed to be all metaphorical or anything like that. But
no, I like your thought process, but I don't think so.
No, I don't think it's supposed to be like that literal, like in terms of a metaphor, but encompassing his own despair, like a
yeah,
I don't know.
No, I see that. Yeah, like the physical embodiment of his despair. And even if it's not, the point is, or even if that wasn't the intention, the point is that's what he's done is use Podrick as the embodiment of his despair and as a reason why he has this existential dreads, because he's wasted so much time chatting about bullshit. And I think there's a really important part of the movie when the sister just puts him in his fucking place. Right, when it's like after he cuts off the first finger and she goes over to his house.
Index finger?
Well, because he cuts off the index first and then he cuts the 4 off when Podrick goes back and sits there and talks to him. But like, I'm trying to remember when the sister. I'm trying to remember when the sister has a conversation with him and is like, all of you are all you men in this fucking
boring.
village, yeah, you're all fucking boring, and like it's just a bunch of bullshit.
When he cuts off his initial finger,
yeah,
and then Colin Farrell immediately is like, "Well, I gotta go over and take it back to him." She's like, "Are you fucking stupid?
Are you fucking stupid? You must be fucking stupid."
And that's an interesting way that it kind of mirrors his despair a bit, because it just keeps coming back to him. Like, it doesn't relent. He can't get rid of it no matter what he does. And I think, if Mrs. McCormick is supposed to be a representation of death, the only person that ends up making or trying to understand her is Siobhan, the sister. She's the only one that makes it. Everybody tries to duck and hide away from her and tries to pretend it's not there, but she's the only one that sees it for what it is. 'Cause she's kind of smarter than everybody else, and everybody else is trying to pretend like it's not there. So, Calm just kind of scapegoats Paulrick into being this thing that's, if I get rid of him, I'll be happy.
Yep.
And God, there's a lot of layers to this too.
Yeah, and that's his
about
curse.
The fingers and the music.
Right?
Yeah,
that's the point you're making. Like that's his curse. Is he's decided to make Podrick this embodiment of all of his existential dread, and but he's almost doing it knowing that Podrick can't help himself. It's like it's like self-destructive. That's interesting, and also super interesting point about Mrs. McCormick that I hadn't even really thought about her in that. But what you said, this is the fourth time you've seen this now? God, I can't.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need to wait a long time before I put myself through that again. I mean,
I'm well, I mean, there's a lot to appreciate about it, but I mean, yeah, it never leaves you with a nice rosy feeling at the end of it. It was
so good though. It was such an experience. And I gotta go back to Dominic for a second, because he's against wars. Yeah. He's against wars and soap. And then
he's a very tragic figure in an unexpected way.
Yeah,
because you expect him to just be kind of the town asshole, but he's really not.
Am I not meant to assume that he jumped in the water and killed himself after getting after the love of his life turning him down?
I think he killed himself. I'm almost positive that's the way I read it. I mean, because his life is just shit at that point. Because
his piece of shit cop dad.
Yeah, his piece of shit cop dad who beats him and apparently molests him, which gets revealed pretty nonchalantly.
Yeah.
Through the course of the movie.
And for the record was the most hilarious line in the whole movie was, "Daddy will kill us if we wake him when he's been wanking."
Yeah, wrote that down. And then they steal the booze anyway. And that's the sad part too, is because Dominic really tries to be a true friend to Paulrick. Like, he's there for him when he's going through this thing with I mean, like, he's very clearly like autistic or something. Like something's up with him. He's not got all his, he's not.
Yeah, he's not all there.
As even keeled. Yeah, but he's he's kind of an abrasive. He just says whatever's on his mind, which I think is a refreshing thing in that town where everybody is just. I think it's Siobhan's just like judgy, and nobody really tries to connect with each other, and she's like, "You're all the same," but he's very different. He's not like anybody else on that island.
Yeah, and that gives everyone else on the island the excuse to use him as the gom or whatever, and just
Yeah, but he's and I think really the last straw for him is when Paulrick admits that he that kid that's like a calm student that comes into town, and he goes up to him because he's jealous.
Some fucked up shit.
He says, your daddy got hit by a milk truck. It happens all the time.
That's impossible.
And he's like, I know. That's how my mommy died. She got hit by a milk truck.
That's impossible. That's how my mommy died.
Yeah. But when he tells him that, he's so heartbroken. It breaks his heart that he's, not the nice guy he thought he was. He's the only one that valued his niceness in the whole town.
Yeah. And the irony, right? That Dominic, that Podrick talks about not, like at the beginning of the movie, he's so upset about being considered dull and so obsessed with not being considered the village idiot. and then he ends up listening to the village idiot's advice when, when he's like, you got to stand up for yourself.
He just gives them the worst advice.
The worst possible advice.
Yeah, it's.
But that's the irony, comical. Right? Like you want the answer to who the biggest village idiot is. The guy taking advice from the village idiot. You answered your own question.
Perfectly said. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. And yeah, gosh, and I think too.
By the way, whoever the animal trainer was on this movie needs a fucking award.
Oh yeah. The animals are very expressive. Jenny the donkey?
Yeah, dude, they're also expressive. All the scenes where they're in the house, because, he's got to be... He likes having his animals inside when he's sad. And all the animals...
Oh, yeah, I love that line.
Dude, yeah, all the animals were so great. Like, I'm not going to lie. The scene in the movie that had me laughing harder than anything else was when when Podrick leaves... Gleason's house the second time, right before he cuts off all of his fingers, and the dog grabs the shears and drags them outside. That was so awesome. Yeah. Like I was cracking the fuck up.
Yeah, it's great comedic timing, and it's just it's just the sweetest looking dog you've ever seen in your life.
I mean, best scene in any movie I've ever seen. I don't even think it's close.
I love that scene too, where he's walking up to the house after Jenny dies, and he runs into Mrs. McCormick on the beach, and she's like, "Don't be going killing this dog now." He's like, "Don't be putting shit in my head that wasn't there already." You fucking
dude. All of the in between, the writing was so good, right? And all the in between lines, the dialogue, or what let the movie breathe so well, and it was very. I don't know anything about different directors' styles or anything, but the fact that we just watched a Coen Brothers movie. It felt very Coen Brothers to me. The dialogue, the repetition of lines for comedic effect, and it felt like a movie that the Coen Brothers would have made.
Yeah, I agree. I think he is. He's one of those rare blends that can mix Coen Brothers and Tarantino style really well, but still have it be his own thing at the same time.
Yeah, there was rare. a little Tarantino-y-ness to it.
Yeah, which I think is like, even in Bruges, I mean, like the two hitmen thing is like a very like Tarantino like cliche, because of Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Two hitmen going to do the job, but I mean, it ends up being this really philosophical, melodramatic play. Really, like you're just following these three characters, and it's not really like his style at all. It's very limited action, and the violence is really gruesome to like an absurd degree, or a very not absurd, like very realistic degree.
Yeah.
That's what makes it disturbing. And the interesting thing in this movie is that there is violence. I mean, like he cuts his fingers off, but there's really beyond that. I don't think there's anything other than people getting punched in the face.
But just that first finger scene is so shocking because you're not expecting it, and like I wrote the note that I took was holy fucking finger. Like that's what I wrote down. I didn't know how else to, like, it was just so fucking shocking because everything was so grounded and serene before that. And it's just like, this is about to get fucking nuts.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. That's one of the powers that the movie has is you're so used to typical action movie. I mean, this is not in that realm of action movie, but you've, tension building movies where like, oh, shit's going to hit the fan at some point. It's like, oh, somebody's going to get shot. Like shit's going to happen. Shit's going to get crazy. But when that first finger hits the door, like it had so much more weight than somebody going to somebody's house and like killing someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it had that power to it, which is an important element to it.
Sorry, fucking Lila heard a truck outside. No.
Lila, how dare you?
No bark. Sumner's making a very important point.
But it's
stupid mutt.
You stupid dog. You made me look bad.
You made me look bad. Okay, anyway, sorry.
No, yeah, it's just it's like the Tim Duncan of filmmaking. It's all fundamentals.
Fundamentals, baby.
Everything you need to. And Brendan Gleeson, and I think that's like another element of it that's really good too is like it's the mark of really good writing when, this. I think you could argue that Calm is like the villain pretty much. He's the one causing all the tension in the movie, and Paul Rudd is supposed to be the good guy. But as the movie goes on, you really understand both of their viewpoints pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
And you don't really know. I mean, like I think Paul Rudd is the one that you sympathize with because being the one that's broken up with, like you have more sympathy for because they didn't see it coming. They don't know why it's happening.
Yeah, and you are spending most of your time with him.
But Colm really tries to smooth things over as much as he can. He tries to be like, I don't feel this way anymore. It's rough, it's harsh, and it sucks. But he really does, like, he's like, stop, and he doesn't listen to him ever. Like, it's like almost obsessive. Like, he can't stop bothering him. Like, he's just pestering him, and he's like, this is going to go on forever and ever. But yeah, the mutilation thing is an interesting, and I wanted to see what you thought about that. Like his whole mutilation thought process, like what your thoughts on that were.
Yeah, I think so. I got over the absurdity of it pretty quick. Not necessarily because I think that it was like an over the top metaphor. I mean, sure, it was a plot device to show you how serious he is, right? But also,
and I don't think it's an over the top metaphor either.
No, right, but it's also, I feel like it's also to sort of show how irrational he's being about the whole thing. That that he's so desperate to not feel like he's going to fade into total obscurity that the only way he can feel alive is to do something so fucking insane. I mean, he explains, and self-destructive. Yeah, and he explains it away when the line, we're all just entertaining ourselves while we stave off the inevitable, right? Like that's and sure, like obviously
it's like depression incarnate too. That's a very depression outlook on the world.
Yeah, I think it was a simple way. It was a simple way to tell the viewer just how fucking, not even like mentally ill, but just how serious the situation is. I got over the absurdity of it pretty quickly. The lack of bleeding out and the lack of infection and 1920s.
Yeah, because that part of it is totally unrealistic, but it almost doesn't matter at the end, I think.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked though, because it seems like that's obviously the turning point in the movie where things become a little more. I'm gonna keep going back to that word because I think fable was the perfect way to describe it. But things become more legendary and fable-like, and you sort of realize, okay, well, this is just the device to explain this. It was. It's interesting too. There were a few instances of like visual literalism that I thought were kind of cool at places. Mm-hmm. Like it's so easy to make stuff like this cheesy, but like it really had an impact on me when I think it's like after the first. I can't remember if he'd cut his finger yet. Things hadn't really hit the fan, but he had told him several times, "I don't want to fucking talk to you anymore," and Podrick goes into town to talk to the postal lady or to get paid, and she was great, by the way, the news lady. Like there were so many great little characters that were so fucking interesting, right? But that's when the cop shows up and punches him, and they've been friends for so long.
They have that moment.
Yeah, Gleason can't help it. He helps him up, takes him home, and they have this moment where they come to a very literal fork in the road, right? And the shot goes behind them, and it's quite literally.
I never noticed it. Yeah, I
was like, oh my god, and it really is the turning point in the movie, right? It's like he's like, okay, look, I'm serious about this. My human nature wouldn't allow me to not help you. But this is literally that was the turning point in the movie where shit went from grounded to fantastical, and it's all right there with the literal shot of a fork in the road. And it's something that's so easy to make cheesy, but it didn't feel trite. It didn't feel.
No, I agree with you. There's a way to make that so apparent and so like this is exactly what you should be feeling, but it never makes it too obvious what it's doing. And I think that's what makes it interesting, really, because it never tells you exactly what you should be feeling at any given time.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the mark of confidence in your material and what you've done, and not to tell you exactly what you should be feeling or not feeling.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I would love to do another... I would love to do like a bonus episode on this movie that can just be a quote-a-thon, because I had to make the conscious decision and effort. I was like, okay, I want to really enjoy this movie for all of its pacing and all of its... I want to experience it the way it was meant to be experienced, and I feel like with some movies I don't have to do that. Like when we're watching Species, I can stop every couple seconds and write down 8 things, but I really wanted to just experience this movie, and I quit writing down quotes after about 20 minutes, and I was like, man, I would love to do a quote-a-thon episode on it, though.
I would too, yeah, because I started watching this yesterday. I just watched the first 10 minutes, because I was like, I want to get a head start, because I want to just like enjoy the first 10 minutes. And then I had written down so many notes by that point. I was like, oh shit, okay, this is gonna be more in depth than I thought it was going to be, because I was like, I've seen the movie, like I know what happens, but the further I got into it, I was writing more and more. I was like, oh shit, there's so much more to this movie than I was initially thinking. And it's and you don't think that when you hear the plot, you're like, okay, I get it, but I don't know, that's the human nature element of it to me that's so interesting. It grips you, and I'm not really entirely sure why. You're just like, and I don't know. I think that Civil War element is a really important point, but I'm not sure. I mean, there's obviously a civil war between them, like they're friends and they separate. Is like a very literal kind of thing, but I think there's something deeper that I've not tapped into yet.
See, I tried to, and that's sort of what I was talking about at the beginning. It's like I feel like maybe the point was just symbolism for the fact that, like, maybe just to show the isolation, right? That like that all of this was occurring in such a bubble, and there's something so much bigger than this thing between these two guys that's happening right across the fucking water. And
no, and I think, no,
that's pretty much that's all I had on it.
No, I mean, I think that's a really important point. I think when Siobhan leaves at the end, like that's a big point of the reason that they are in this perpetual cycle. I think she even makes fun of Comfort at some point. Like, you're stuck on Inisherin and you're trying to not be friends with a guy. Like, that's insane. Just leave. Like, you don't have to be here. Like, what's your why are you? But he chooses to stay there, and I think that's another element to his character that I think is really fascinating, because he chooses self-mutilation personally. Like, he doesn't. Nobody tells him. He just, like, that's where his mind goes immediately.
He reminded me so much of my granddad in this movie, Gleason.
Really?
Dude, I was just like, this is some shit that my granddad would do if he lived on a fucking island in Ireland in 1920.
Yeah,
but anyway,
100 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Is like, I think the idea that I think another element to that too is that the idea that he's just like Paul Rick and he's gonna die just like Paul Rick really bothers him. Like, because he thinks he's above him in some way, which is a strange element to his character. Like, he feels some superiority to him, and I'm not sure he's that much smarter than he is. Like, he's more talented musically in this one particular field, and maybe he can read books and is a little smarter, but he's not any different. He's a guy on this tiny island in the middle of nowhere. Nobody knows him, and he's just obsessed with this idea of legacy that it just haunts him. So in his head, like, I think even Siobhan is like, how's that going to help your music if you're cutting off your fingers? And he's like, I don't know. But I think it's just to alleviate the pressure of having to do something with your life. You can't even handle that part.
That's interesting. Yeah, it takes it out of his hands. He decides
Yeah.
to embody all
Literally.
of his self. Yeah, literally, to embody all of his existential dread into this poor guy who just wants to be his friend, even if he is a little dull, and decides,
And
you
a
know
little
what,
like a
he's
psycho ex-girlfriend.
yeah. And he just decides, I'm going to let this guy bail me out. This is going to be the source of all my problems and the solution. And that's human nature, right? To oversimplify or overreact and think that, yeah, man. See, this is the problem with a movie like this is it's like you said, because it's so wide open and it covers such an array of feelings and emotions and themes and it's all human nature and existentialism, that you could literally fucking talk about this movie and what it means to any given person at any given time for hours on end.
Yeah. And that's a nice thing about it. One of my other favorite movies, There Will Be Blood, I love so much because any point I drop into it in my life, like, I feel completely differently about it than I did the last time I watched it.
That's interesting.
And that's a beautiful feeling when you can come back to a movie and like, oh, I don't feel the way I did at all. And it's really amazing when a piece of art can kind of grow with you. Like when someone can tap into whatever that is and not be tied down by, that structure or, what things are supposed to mean, like can leave it open-ended enough to where it's always applicable. That's a very powerful way, and it's not easy to do at all. Like I think that's like I don't even know the way to say it, like the mark of a masterpiece.
Yeah, I think you make an interesting point there. Because think about every other movie like that, right? Like I know I said it earlier, but take a movie like Forrest Gump, for instance. I know.
Yeah.
I've never met anybody that didn't love Forrest Gump, right? And it covers, a man's entire man's entire absurd life. But you almost no matter what age you're at, you can resonate with some element of his story or some part of his story because it's just a human life. And every great classic is just a human life. And it's why so many stories that have survived from, the ancient Greeks and whatever, it's like it's just stories about human nature will always endure because no matter what point in your life you're at, you're going to. Anyway, I'm saying nothing at this point.
No, I agree. I think that's the human element is always an important factor in those things. Like in art, in general, and we've talked about this before with I think just any art form is just like when the human element is so apparent and so just right there, you can really grasp onto it at any point. And like as you grow older, like that's one of the things I really enjoy about movies now is I've seen all these things, but going back and watching them again, I feel like I'm watching them for the first time as an older person. And 10 years from now, I'm sure I'll feel the same way.
Yeah,
because you grow and experience, and it's not even like that. It doesn't even have to be that deep. You're just a different person, and you experience things in a different way that you never even thought of when you were younger. It just doesn't hit you the same way. But
Sumner, can't you just fucking leave me alone?
Can't you fucking leave me alone? I'll leave you alone.
I'm waiting on my friend. Your four-fingered friend. Are you fucking joking me?
What does he say when he comes back in? Or oh god, what did he?
Yeah, scroll through your 7 pages of notes.
Could you hear it? It's so embarrassing. So not professional.
Get it together, lass.
It's
Did you notice too that Dominic ended up getting pulled out of the water by his own stick with a hook? I couldn't let that go.
Oh, I didn't catch that, but yeah, when you said that, yeah, I think he was.
I don't know what point that was trying to make, but it was just sad.
Oh, yeah, it was just a sad turn of events. But I think it's important that the Officer Kearney is about to go fuck up Paulrick, and then what's her face calls him over and then fishes his son out of the lake.
Yep.
It's like, it's all your fault, fuckface. That's what you did.
Fucking dick fuck. Fucking
yeah,
tiny brown dick heaven.
And that bothered me too. That made me not like call him a lot because he chose that dick face over Paulrick. Like, he'd rather hang out with him, even though he's a complete fuckwad.
Well, it's like, that's the thing. I think it's proven over and over again that he doesn't really suddenly dislike Podrick. He's just decided to use him as a scapegoat for all of his issues.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
would
that's
talk
true.
to literally the scum of the earth to not have to face his own fucking issues.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. It's just complete denial, and that's a word that gets brought up a lot. It's just denial of death, or of, you know, one's own shortcomings, or not having to deal with feelings that you have, you know, depression, whatever. It doesn't matter. It could literally be a metaphor for anything. It doesn't even have to be a metaphor if you don't
Maybe
want it
that's
to be.
what makes movies timeless and great. It's all just fucking. It's whatever it means. Yeah, it can be interpreted in any way based on whatever you're fucking going through in your life.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love about this movie, is that nothing is meant to be metaphorical. I think there are a ton of movies that you can watch, and they're meant to take this in a metaphorical sense, but it's refreshing to watch a movie where it could be taken both ways. It could be taken as a metaphorical way, it could be taken as a literal way, and you're perfectly right to assume both. Like,
yeah,
you know, nobody can really fault you for thinking one way or the other.
Yeah,
and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a bloody masterpiece, and we gotta seriously, we gotta wrap this up and leave all 6 pages of your notes for a bonus episode. Cause
you gotta go.
Yeah, I gotta go fucking do shit. But all I want to do is talk about movies. I
do too. Well, we want to talk about the when Siobhan lets down Dominic's character by the lake.
So sad. Quick. For the record, I really thought that Siobhan was gonna fucking die on that boat. Because the Grim Reaper chick is like, oh, there's gonna be 2 deaths or whatever. And I was like, holy shit, she's going to get hit by... That's how I thought the Civil War was going to come back around, was that just like a stray round was going to hit the boat and kill her. Or I thought that was it. I thought she was done. I thought he was literally going to have everything taken from him. And the fact that she was leaving in part because of her own ambition, but also because she just couldn't fucking stand being there anymore.
Which I totally understand her... Like, it's so destructive and awful. Like, you're just stuck there, and you have to deal with it. And she's like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. And there's a very healthy way to I'm just gonna get out of here.
Yeah, but the scene by the lake when she's turning him down, dude. That was honestly when I said that he stole the movie. It was that scene for me. He was so good and fidgety and little boy shining through the young man.
He was the sweetest he was in the entire movie. He wasn't too pushy. He was just very clearly asking. He's like, I don't. Would you ever think a woman like you could fall in love with a boy like me? It's it's very sweet. He's not trying to be creepy or anything like he's been earlier in the movie. And then the way she lets him down is so sweet.
Yep.
Very lovely. And she's just
no,
I don't think so, love.
No.
But the fact that she calls him love is so nice. And I know that's just a Irish thing, but she's very sweet about it. She sees how tender he is in his eyes and lets him down very easily. But you see in his face, the pain in his face is very apparent.
It's brutal. Oh, wait. Okay. Yeah, wait. We can't wrap up because we didn't even get to favorite line. Do you have a favorite line?
Okay. Oh, I've got many.
Nope. It's gotta be your absolute favorite.
I do like the one where they're talking about at the dinner table she's like, maybe he's depressed, and he's like, well, yeah, that's what I thought. I thought he was depressed too. Why didn't they just shove it down like the rest of us? That's not my favorite line, but I just thought that was funny. It's not my favorite line, but this is one I wanted to mention where he's talking about Mozart at the bar, and he's like,
what's his name?
Who's gonna? He's like, who's going to remember your niceness in 50 years, or Siobhan's niceness in 50 years? And he's like, you know who people remember? Mozart. And he's like, everybody knows Mozart's name. And he's like, well, I don't. There goes that theory.
There goes that theory right out the door.
That's just a really great line, tying back in his like conceit, like pretty much like
Yeah.
the fact that, like there are people that can be remembered. It's like everybody's gonna die. Everybody's gonna forget everybody, but he can't come to terms with that.
Yep.
Personally, kind of ties the whole movie together pretty well.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's
pretty
my
good.
favorite line, I think.
That's a good favorite line. It might beat mine because mine's pretty fucking stupid. So another really good scene. Every scene's great, but when fucking Colin Farrell goes into God, I'm forgetting his name. Colm. What's his full name? They call him Colm Sonny.
Colm. Oh, I wrote it down. Sonny Larry.
Colm Sonny Larry. Yeah. He just walks into his house. It's the second time, right? And he sits down to ask him how the song's coming. And it's it's before he chops off all 4 of his fingers. He sits down on the chair, and the dog comes up and licks him. And Colin Farrell's like, there'll be none of that. I didn't come here for licks. I came here for the opposite of licks. And then Gleason's like, what's the opposite of licks? Wait, never mind. He didn't even want to know. He's like, what's the opposite of licks? But just the way that Colin Farrell delivered that line, the dog just licks him and he shoos him away. He's like, there'll be none of that. I didn't come here for licks. It's so good.
It felt like a very improv line.
It did feel improv, and it was just that was it for me. That the movie stole my heart forever.
Yeah, it's a fantastic film. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's great.
Go watch the movie.
We didn't talk in Irish accents for half an hour. It's
you want to know why? Because I can't really do an Irish accent consistently. It always ends up Scottish.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think nobody can do an Irish accent very well if they're trying to.
I just too much Braveheart.
Yeah, it's too much Mel Gibson, bad Scottish accents.
Maybe all Colm was trying to say was, "This is my island.
This is my island. They may take our fingers. They'll never take our violins."
Your island? Yeah, aye. It's mine.
God says he can get me out of this mess. He's pretty sure. You're fucked.
You're fucked. God.
We should just watch Braveheart.
I know. It's another movie that we need to have special episodes of both guys have already seen it, but just want to watch it again so they can get drunk and talk about it. Look, that'll just be a new podcast. We'll just name it that. Both guys.
I've watched some.
That'll be the full name.
Yeah, both guys.
No, it'll be both guys have seen it, but they just want to talk about it and get drunk, and that'll be the full title of the
whole
show.
Episode name. I have watched some YouTube videos where historians are like, "This is the most historically inaccurate movie ever made," which is really funny.
Talking about Braveheart?
Oh yeah,
good.
It's very bad.
I hope it is
very bad. Like they just completely fabricate most of the story. It's insane.
I always kind of figured that. I thought William Wallace was sort of like a legend.
He was, but I mean, like the whole stuff with Robert the Bruce being a traitor is very much not true.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he was actually he's a hero in Scotland, and they portrayed him as a traitor for absolutely no reason. It's insane.
Well, is Mel Gibson Irish? Because that would explain it.
He hates the English, and Scottish by proxy, I guess.
Well, no, because my thought was, the Irish hate the Scottish so much. Maybe Mel Gibson was Irish and was just trying to shit on the Scots.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah, because even in The Patriot, there's so many British historians that break down that movie, and they're like, the only conclusion that they come to is that that Mel Gibson just hates British people.
It checks out.
He isn't clinically insane, it seems like. But
well, this is that part of the show where we give it a rating.
Yes.
Sumner, how many beers do you think someone needs to enjoy this movie?
My heart says 0, but in my head I say at least 3 because everybody's drinking beers. You gotta join in.
Yeah, how can you not? This is yet another movie that our scale just doesn't quite work for, because you almost.
It was a great beer drinking movie.
It was a great beer drinking movie. Do I think you need a beer to appreciate it in all of its glory? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So again, we'll give another movie. It doesn't have a score, but go fucking watch it because it's awesome.
We've gotten 3. I'm really happy, and they've all been mine so far.
Yep. Yeah, dude.
Not to
And
take
that's
pride in
that's
that
going
fact,
to
but-
continue. Yeah, it's going to continue. I've come to terms with the nature of this podcast.
I was really happy that you felt that way about Miller's Crossing because I didn't expect that.
Miller's
I'm really
Crossing
glad
was
you liked
fucking awesome too. I need to edit that.
Yeah.
You need to send me that shit. Well, anyway, this is one guy's
did I?
seen it. We'll be back next week with something truly dreadful, I'm sure, that I have seen, or we might start on our special secret Band of Brothers
Hey.
special episodes. I've got some rewatching to do.
I think that might be a. Well, we'll talk about it when we get off. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
tell you my ideas.
do our final line. This is one guy's seen it, and remember.
Every movie's better with at least 4.5, 5 to 6 beers.
Oh, yeah. One guy's seen it, the other guy hasn't. First guy's gonna tell the second guy all about it while they both get drunk.